You're listening to the Piper Carter podcast on the Detroit is Different podcast network.
Welcome back to a very special edition of the Piper Carter podcast. I am so honored to have today the one and only mother of the creator of Neo Soul, the most prolific hip hop producer ever, a Detroit icon and legend, Ma Dukes, Yancey, the mother of J Dilla, J D, John Doe, James DeWitt, Yancey. Welcome to Piper Carter podcast, my Dukes.
Well, thank you. Very happy to be here.
Wow, my Dukes, you're colossal. You're so amazing. People love you, my Dukes.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. There's not enough love in the world, and I'm just grateful for every little bit. It goes a long way and gives me more love to spread,
Wow, it's amazing. The mother of J Dilla. This is incredible. Well, first I want to get into your most recent project that you have going on, because you have so much going on all the time. Everyone's pulling at you. But I want to get right into the most recent thing that is just amazing. You're telling me about it. Can you please tell us, what are you working on right now? What, is in the ecosphere? What can everyone look forward to right now?
Okay, right now, the shining star right now is the J Dilla Tech Grant. And it's sponsored by VH1 and Save the Music. And it's actually one of the main supporters is Cadillac this year. They've taken on the place where it used to be Toyota. So the Tech Grant has been running for a couple years. And initially it was for high schools around the country. And just since this past December, we have added junior high school. So if you have a music class in a junior high school or middle school, I think that's what they call it nowadays, then you definitely can apply. The thing that's most important is having the teacher who's willing to give that time each week to the class to see that it's done in the school, in the classroom. Of course, there are exceptions. For this year during the pandemic. There are students that are actually learning at home virtually with their instructor because of the pandemic. So this has been running for a couple years now, and it's very successful. We have children that are really excited and long waiting list at school. So, it's something that you might want to look into. We'd be very, very happy, and I'm sure VH1, Save the Music, would be very, very happy for any applications for the Tech Grant. They're excited about it too. And this gives a wonderful background and training for those students that are interested in a career in music. And it's not just for one thing, but there are very, very many careers that can come from the hands-on, as you know, Piper, by the S.T.E.A.M programs and working directly with electronics and instruments. And they provide these things for the students. So this is just an outstanding program. We have we have a couple schools in Philly. We have a couple schools in New York. We have just recently Central High School in Detroit, which I'm very happy about. We have schools in California, high schools. We have 2 high schools in New Orleans, and they are the first to receive Tech Grant in junior high in New Orleans. So they'll help us there. Just apply and get busy and provide your students with something that is meaningful and that could go a long way in their life. After all, they've taken so much out of the schools, and we have to address these things culture-wise and professional learning skills for those students.
And this is so beautiful. I mean, is this work coming out of the foundation?
This is work that came about because of the foundation, and that's how we were noticed. And I'll tell you, it was a brainchild of I Am Other, which is Pharrell is in the background of that, who initiated the thought process and talks with the Save the Music in VH1. And that's how it all began. And it's been a few years now that it's been active. And we have, if you go to my website, the foundation website, you can look and see how we've done classroom sessions with Jean Wyclef. He's promoting this also. And we did the red carpet with MTV. Well, not last year, because last year, of course, was the pandemic, okay, but the year prior. And so, it's a lot there. It's information on there and how to apply and what's necessary. And I tell you, they're just waiting for people to add this to their curriculum for the schools.
Wow. And so tell us a bit more about the foundation, the J Dilla Foundation. Like, how did the J Dilla Foundation come about, and like when?
You can help me with that, okay? The J Dilla Foundation came about with the help of my great friend Piper Carter. Okay, we started working and doing some things to celebrate Dilla's legacy years ago. Was it? And then we formed the foundation. Actually, the beginning of the foundation was formed in Los Angeles in 2006, right after Dilla passed, with the help of Jay Barber and myself and Asia Sheen. So we started there. And then when I moved back to Detroit, of course, the foundation moved to Detroit with me. And we've been just paying it forward and trying to do things for children to bring information to parents. First off, that children are talented and have skills that they haven't even began to touch base with. And we just want them to see and experiment and to learn with their children. All these great gifts that they come with. I do truly believe that all children come with special gifts, and we have to take time to nurture them, to realize them first, and then to nurture them. And sometimes we need the right equipment, because it might just be something that's technical that they are involved in or can do very well. The J Dilla Foundation, of course, with your help, Piper, started the S.T.E.A.M program for that, and that was so successful. And it has moved into many chapters in different cities in the U.S., and one in London. I can't forget Spin Doctor, that he carries on the tradition to elevate James' name every year in London. But yes, there are so many chapters. We have chapters in Las Vegas. We have a chapter in Chicago. We have a chapter in California, and that's run by Frank Nitt. And we have a chapter in, let's see, did I say New York already? We have a chapter in New York. We have a chapter in Atlanta. We have two different chapters in Atlanta, because they have different purposes. And then we have a chapter in Miami. We have another chapter. I'm missing somebody. We have one in, I've said Vegas, but I'm missing somebody, okay? Atlanta, that's Atlanta. Yes. And so, yes, we're steadily growing. We're steadily growing, and the interest is tumultuous, and it brings families together. It helps parents to realize the strength of their children, and also what's needed and what they might consider as career choices.
I want to, I got to tell you some stories, my dude.
Uh-huh.
They're good stories, but.
That's all ears.
So my initial experience with, well, when I first met you was through doing a tribute.
Yes.
The first tribute that I was involved in, for J Dilla. And so I moved back to Detroit in 2008.
Okay.
After having a career in New York City doing fashion photography. And when I came to Detroit, I ended up meeting DJ Dres
Yeah.
through the this event called Funk Night.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and they would play Frank Rain's event. No, actually Frank Rains took it over, but Brad that owned People's Records had this night that was dedicated to, he would play rare 45s.
Okay.
Rare funk 45s all night. And he's a white guy. And so it'd be like 3,000 white kids dancing all night long. And the DJ is Brad and a couple other people. I think Frank Rains was with him. And they'd be playing these funk 45s like all night long. And then they would have, they would find the people who actually played on the records from back in the 70s.
Okay.
They would come up with a little stipend, and then those people would perform. They would be elders at the time, but they would perform to their record, or they perform their record, right?
Oh, wow.
So they would have like different headliners. So there'd be like, the DJ would play these 45s all night, and then the bands that they would resurface would be the headliner, right? And so Dres would be there. He'd be one of the DJs. They'd have all the different DJs. And so, yeah, so you've got to love music. It's a very, music lovers thing. And so I was going to that, and I met DJ Dres. And so Dres and I became friends because I'm a music nerd, and Dres is a music nerd. If anyone knows Dres, that's his artist name, DJ Dres. And so I would go over Dres's house like 3-4 days a week, and he had his whole setup in the basement, right? Okay. So he'd be playing his records. He's got a bajillion records. Exactly. And so much time had passed. I only knew Dres as DJ Dres, right? That does DJ stuff at Funk Night. And so one day, I was at, wherever I was, I don't know, maybe lunch or something. And someone says, blah, blah, blah. And we were talking about the history of J Dilla. Right? So then I say, oh my God, I love J Dilla. I'm such a huge fan. I really love, the music, the sound, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'd love to meet his mother, right? Wow. And the person goes, why don't you just ask Dres? So then I go, Dres knows. I'm like, Dres knows J Dilla's mother, right? And they're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I said, wow, I wonder how he met her. And they're like, from Slum. And I go, oh, Dres knows Slum Village. And they were like, Dres. Oh my God. The DJ for Slum Village. I'm like, exactly. And they're like, yeah. I said, man, he never said anything about that. You know what? And he does, and he's closed mouth, isn't he? And I go to Dres and I go, you're DJ for Slum Village? He's like, yeah, And I go, I said, man, we need to do a tribute. We need to do a tribute. And Dres was like, nah, people tried to do it before. It didn't turn out well, type of thing. I said, no. I'm like, we need to contact his mother and ask her, if she'd be cool. Like, we need to do, And so he kind of stayed away from it for a while. And then I don't know, like some time passed, maybe a couple months passed, right?
Yes.
And now we were, so this was like 2008, right? The same year I moved there, like in the winter. So I had started, because I had the gallery, the hip hop art gallery.
Exactly.
I had started doing this no misogyny open mic, right? Called the Foundation for Women in Hip Hop. I started doing that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I started doing that. And it was on Tuesdays and it was weekly. So I started that in 2009. And so we've been doing that and it's been going pretty well. And I remember, everyone would come. And then I told Des, I said, what would be cool is if we could get, my Dukes to come, right, on a Tuesday and we celebrate her for women in hip hop, right? And so I had been trying to, this was before I met you,
Yeah.
And so everybody kept telling me that was impossible, right?
Really?
And I was like, wow. I said, well, somebody's got to be able to get in touch with her, And then I'm trying to remember who put me in touch with Kendra.
Okay.
And so someone, I don't remember who, and I apologize, I don't remember you, but someone was like, guess what, Piper? You've been trying to get in touch with my Dukes. You've been trying to do this tribute for Dilla. You should talk to Kendra because she's revamping all the paperwork and everything for the J Dilla Foundation. Yeah. And, she probably needs some help. I said, oh, that'd be great, So I reach out to Kendra and I tell her like, oh, I've been wanting to do this tribute, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, good, because we want to relaunch and that'd be great. And so through this whole thing, somehow, some way, some shape, some form, Mochilla, the guys at Mochilla,
yes,
they contact me.
Yes.
And they're like, we have a film, right? They're like, you're gonna do a Dilla tribute. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, in Detroit? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, we have a film. And the film goes with an album.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the album is called The Suite for My Dukes. Yeah. And it's this beautiful black and white film shot by B+. And B+ is one of my favorite hip hop photographers.
Yes.
And they're like, and this conductor, Miguel Atwater Ferguson, took all the Dilla beats and wrote out the music to them and turned them into sheet music, and it performed it with this multicultural orchestra in LA, and we filmed it. And I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, my Dukes, it's the center, this and that. They're like, can we bring the film to your tribute? I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And I was like, yo, though, I don't have money, I can't bring you guys. They're like, no, we'll bring ourselves. Yeah. I said, are you serious? They're like, yeah. They're like, we'll bring ourselves. And they flew to Detroit.
Yes.
They flew Miguel to Detroit. Yeah. And they gave out, I think it was like 200 or 300 DVDs of the film Suite for My Dukes. And we connected with, well, by that time I had met you.
Yes.
And we talked, and then I was like, oh, my Dukes, we want to give you an award.
I remember the night. I remember.
And we had Halim, or no, it was Crisco.
Okay.
Made the award. One of the B-boys.
Exactly.
Made the award from scratch. Was like, oh, I'm gonna made this award from scratch. Remember, it snowed. It was a bad snowstorm.
It was bad. Yes.
And Dream Hampton was supposed to come do this whole intro for you. And she was like, look, it's too bad I can't come out. and she did the intro over the phone.
Okay.
Remember, we put the phone up to the microphone?
Exactly.
And Rick Hampton was on the microphone and did this whole tribute to you. It was beautiful. And we gave you the award, and we did this whole thing because, you know, on Tuesdays we dedicate to women in hip hop, and we were like, we're going to do it on our Tuesday Women in Hip Hop night, and we called it My Dukes is the Foundation, because our night was called the Foundation, and we said My Dukes is the Foundation. We showed the film, we had all the performances from all the people who had ever made music with Dilla, not ever, but the people in Detroit. Right. Made so it was like Fat Cat and Guilty, and even House Shoes flew in.
Exactly.
House Shoes flew in, and Mo Chilla was there, and Miguel came, and it was so amazing. Like Duelle came.
Yes.
It was so amazing. And then and Phil Freshman made that painting of Dilla for you. That was his first time showing in a gallery. Yeah.
Yes.
That was so amazing.
Oh my God, that painting. Goodness.
And everybody from Detroit came out. It was like but that was and I think there hadn't been a tribute since Dilla had passed. Was that 06?
It hadn't been. I think someone gave one. I think Callie had one, but I wasn't there anymore. And that was the first. That was the very first.
And that's how I met. So from there, that's how I met. You know, I mean, I had known, you know, that we would do Dilla tributes in New York, and you know,
so crazy.
but we hadn't done it in Detroit, and I was like, wow. So from there, I said, oh, my dudes, we want to do this again, because when we did it, we collected the money at the door, but we didn't keep the money. We gave it to the foundation.
Exactly, and I remember every moment. I remember where I was sitting and everybody that was there that night. You know,
it was amazing.
Like, it was so awesome, and oh my God, families came. It was just beautiful.
It was beautiful. So from there, we said, oh, we got to do this again, right? So we did it again the next year, and so that next year, we weren't able to get all the performances, right?
Yeah.
And so we did a panel. And so instead of performances, we had a panel. It was Amp Fiddler, and he talked about his history with Dilla, how he taught Dilla how to how he taught Dilla the technology, and Dilla opened up the MPC and tweaked it, and that's how the sound was created. And he talked about how that was the Dilla sound, and then I think he broke one, and he gave that one to Wajid, and that's where Wajid's sound came from. And he got another one and then broke that one and gave it to Tarak, and that's where Tarak's sound came from. Yeah. And then and he just talked about this history of how Dilla used to go over his house, you know, in Coney Gardens.
Oh my God, that was like church for Dilla. Amp reigned, and not just for Dilla, but for so many young musicians in the Coney Gardens area. He was open door for anyone that wanted to learn. It's amazing.
He just talked about how he would he talked about Dilla's work ethic, and how Dilla would go to his house or his basement every single day and work for hours. He said the other kids would come. He said, but they weren't as, you know, their work ethic wasn't like what Dilla's was. He said he knew, you know, Dilla had it, because he said he would be there hours and hours and hours trying to figure stuff out.
He didn't know what he was facing when he got home, and I had no idea he was learning like he was. I'm like, oh my God. And I would, you know, I was a taskmaster in the house, so he caught it, you know, with my mouth and whatever. But he let me know full well. He said, well, I just have to suffer the consequences, Ma, because I got to do my music. And when he said that, I mean, how could I say anything? Because I knew how much music meant to him. I knew how much music could heal and the benefits. So it was just open and shut case, you know?
And you know what's crazy is like, so I think it was like that. It was, you know, Amp was on the panel, Nick Speed was on the panel, and I think Five Ella was on the panel.
Yeah.
And the only performance we had was the Urban Strings Youth Orchestra, right?
Oh, I love, yes.
And that was their first time. Shouts out to Cecilia. And
Wow.
they learned, like, I don't know what they learned, some Lady Gaga or something, and they played that music. And then when they were done, I remember being like, hey, can y'all freestyle, right? And then Amp and Nick Speed and them go over it. And I just remember the kids looking at me like, what do you want me to do? No, I don't know how to do that. And I remember being like, please, please, please. And they were like, no, we don't know it. We don't know how to do it, blah, blah. And I asked the one young person, did they know how to pick their violin? Because they're the string orchestra.
Exactly.
People that are listening. It's violin, viola, cello, bass, right?
Exactly.
And the kids being like, are you crazy? You don't play the violin with your fingers. And I was like, no, this is hip hop. You can do whatever you could. I'm like, you could turn into a rhythm instrument. They were like, what? And I just remember being like, please try. And they were like, okay. And I remember they tried it and magic happened.
Yes.
Amp went with them, over them and was singing, and Nick Speed was rapping and they were playing and everyone was looking. It was just amazing. It was so magical. It was so amazing. It was almost spiritual. And it was there. It was there because I remember asking them, could they play one of Dilla's songs, right?
Yes.
And the kids had come late, right? And I just remember the kids being like, who is that? And I just remember being like, oh no, they don't know who J Dilla is at the J Dilla tribute. And I just remember being like, you know what? We've got to dedicate this to the kids.
Yeah.
This has to be for the kids. Like the next generation has to know. And at that time, around Detroit, wherever you went, majority of people did not know who Dilla was.
Exactly.
Everywhere we went, people be like,
nobody knew. But, that was probably because he didn't want anybody to see him or look at him. He was like so introverted, when he wasn't on stage. He was, he was down doing the music, making the music, and he didn't want to be seen.
And it's interesting because, he created a whole genre, right? He created neo soul. And so, it's interesting. So I just remember that next year, though, that following year, that third year.
Yes.
I remember contacting you like, you know what, my Dukes, we're going to do the tribute again, but it's only going to be for kids. We're going to call it Dilla Youth Day.
Yes.
I started working with kids at the time. So I started working with youth at the time. Exactly. And I got involved with the Detroit Digital Justice Coalition, where I helped, found that, was part of the founding team of that.
Exactly.
And we started teaching community, how to use technology. And I was like, let's just bring this over here. And we got, people, we got like the people who made music with Dilla, but then people like DJ Head, who had Dilla's, he was like, I'll bring Dilla's original, SP1200, the music with Tribe Called Quest on.
Exactly.
You could like see that. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? He was like, yeah. So he brought that. And then Des came and, just Amp came and was like, well, I could teach, kids how to make some beats. And so all these amazing people, DJ Los came and was like, I could teach kids how to scratch. And, Mahogany Jones came and was like, well, I could teach kids how to write and rap. And
oh my God.
The B-Boys came, like, Hardcore Detroit and, B-Girl Mama and all them. And Halim, they were like, well, I could come and teach the kids how to dance. And we were like, this is great. And then, we had graffiti artists and everything. And that's when you were like, well, this is beautiful that it's for kids.
Yes.
And we got the food donated, like Whole Foods.
I know that was something right there. That was something hard to do.
Uncle Paulie got Whole Foods to donate all the healthy food for the kids, like fruits and vegetables. And that's when we met Dilla's daughters.
Yes.
They were little girls and they came.
Exactly.
and
Yes,
started
I
making
remember.
beats.
Yeah, I remember that was Paige's first time I call her Paige, I'm sorry. That was her first time on equipment. And she was so proud. And she's still so proud of that first beat that she made, and she never will forget it. It meant so much to her.
Yeah, I mean, and it was just amazing to have his daughter making beats, right?
Exactly. Now
And it was so cool.
and she still talks about that. And she actually is a couple of weeks away from turning 21. So
isn't that amazing?
That's something. Yes.
And then just from there, we just started we were like, okay, this is what it is. We're going to dedicate this event to the youth and to building up programming for the youth. And so it became this hands-on, event that was like technology and arts and culture. And then we were like, and you know what? We don't want to have any adult no adult performances. The adults that come, they teach and they share, right?
Exactly.
And then remember Urban Strings Youth Orchestra came back. They performed again.
They were always requested,
Right.
I fell in love with them, and I think about them still to the day. I love them.
And it's crazy. Like I remember we were on maybe year 5 or something.
Uh-huh.
And 5, I think year 5 and 5 or 6, something like that. And I remember coming up to it. We had the youth program, and I remember telling the youth at the time, I wanted them to now, learn some Dilla songs, right?
Yes.
And so we were like, okay, well, what songs should we have them learn? And I just remember thinking, because it was so much going on after the Trayvon, the Mike Brown, and all that kind of stuff. And I just remember being like, I want them to learn F the police.
I remember. Oh, yes, I remember.
And everyone was like, Pipe, you can't have the kids play F the police. And I was like, why not? And then we went over and over and over. And then that's when we finally said, okay, we won't have the kids say F the police. We'll have the kids say, watch the police.
Yes.
And we had them learn, how to play, the F the police. And then I remember we had some other young people at the time who were, MCs as well. And so we had shouts out to Kari Frazier of Detroit is Different, and also to Sterling Tolles. They ended up, I asked them to work with the youth to have the young people write rhymes about their encounters with police and, police terrorism, stop and frisk, this kind of thing. And so they did. And so the young people worked for 3 months or so, 3 or 4 months with them, just learning about, what is the stop and frisk rules and know your rights and, understanding police terrorism framework. And from there, they wrote their rhymes, right? And let me tell you, my dukes, y'all came, his daughters came, everybody came. And it was so hot. And that part where it says 1, 2, 3, F the police, everybody was just, but they didn't say F. They said, watch the police, right? And it was just exuberant. It was amazing. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I remember every single one.
And do you remember that somebody called the police and the police came?
I do remember. Yes, I do.
I remember I went to
and we were trying to figure out who in the world would do something like that.
I went to the door. I was so scared because the place was rocking and the kids were on the stage saying F the police. And I just remember walking to the door
And seeing them there.
Well, I saw the police there. They were in uniform, and they could barely get in because it was packed.
It was packed. Yeah.
And I remember them looking at me right when the kids said that, and I just saw the officer. There was a black officer and a white officer, and I just saw the white officer throw his hands up and start Earl Flynn and talk about 1, 2, 3, watch the police. I had to tell you that story.
Oh my God, I do remember. Oh my God, yes.
And I went to the officer, and I was like, he was like, you know what? He was like, somebody called us and told us about it's a lot of noise or a commotion or a lot of people.
I remember.
He was like, but this is so beautiful. The energy in here is amazing. He was like, great message. He was like, the kids are just wonderful. He was like, keep this going. He's like, it's beautiful.
And so many parents there. So we had so many there was so many families there.
So many families.
Yes. And it's really hard. It's always been hard to get families to come together to do something, to take the time out of their Sundays or, usually it was Sundays.
Yeah.
To come and see different things that are going on and be with youth, especially if they worked, especially if they were out the night before, but parents made a sacrifice. And I mean, it was as many full families as it was single children, it's like everybody came. Everybody could get away there came.
And that was intentional. We had built that up because we would ask parents every year, what do you need to be able to come? And the parents would tell us if it was on a Sunday afternoon, after church.
Yeah.
And I had enough time to get there, I could break. So we did that. We said, okay, we'll do it Sunday afternoon after church.
Exactly.
That had stuff for the parents to do too, right?
Exactly. And if they had been out the night before, it was consideration that they get up in time to get the kids ready and still make it. And I mean, it was from the time the door opened. They were piling in,
And it was all ages, right? Because there's cool stuff for the teens to do. There's cool stuff. And we were doing the maker space. They were doing robotics. We had them do everything from I'm going to call it low tech all the way to high tech stuff, And eventually we got Ableton.
Yes.
And Ableton came in for about 2 or 3 years, and they gave us, a couple of hundred pieces of Ableton software to give to the kids. We had been struggling though. We had tried to get a Kai and Native Instruments, but they were never responsive.
Yeah. No, they're really slow. They're slow moving.
Yeah. And we grew it, right? From, 150 kids when we started all the way up to 3,000.
Thousands, yes.
And
thousands.
we
they talked about it because they would put the footage on the air. You see it when you click on Detroit, you would see snippets, and things of how it went. I was watching it. I would watch it from home myself after I had left Detroit. It was just beautiful, just a beautiful family-oriented thing, educational and exciting and entertaining. And plus you fed them. You fed everybody.
We fed them healthy meals.
You always had enough, and they had a meal and snacks, and just so beautiful,
And they would take home what they made, for the day.
They were so proud because they weren't forced to do any particular thing. They involved themselves in what they wanted to do, and that was the beauty of it. Usually in an academic situation, you might get locked into a certain space because you only have so many spaces, but it seemed to pan out that everybody was where they wanted to be, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah, and the kids would perform, and then
they loved it.
They would learn all aspects,
they look
right?
Forward to it. Yes, they look forward to it all year.
Yeah, they did. And so from that, think about this: that event we did was almost a decade, right?
Yes.
And so many of those kids, the time when we started the event, when we would go around Detroit, people barely knew who Dilla was, right?
You're right.
To this day, many of the Detroiters, especially if they're under a certain age, right? If they're a Generation Z, They know about Dilla because they came to our event. They were a kid, right? Coming to our event. And so now you have I'm gonna say the normalization, or, the spreading of for people in Detroit to know who Dilla is, that, because we would be on the news. We did a great job with getting the PR out. And so now everybody knows who Dilla is,
So much media. Yes, indeed.
So much media. So now here in Detroit, it's like, we're like, it used to bother me,
Yeah, because
why don't people know him,
Like everybody else hometown knew about him before his own hometown knew. But it made it happen. You made it happen by continuation and sticking with it.
And what's beautiful, like, when I see young people that are adults now, and like, oh, I grew up in Dilla Youth Day, and now, I mean, this generation, they love Dilla. They love Dilla.
Yes.
You have whole communities built on, just the Dilla pantheon, or the Dilla,
I'm telling you, so true. So true. And this is why the Dilla Tech grant is so important. Because we all don't have money to send our children to schools that would have these different type of equipment and, things to work with, or have any type of music. But it's a great need because we have talented children. It just seems like Detroit, more than anywhere else, has always been overbrimming with talented young people. And it's just time to open the doors and to give them what they need. They're brilliant and they can use it,
Yeah.
So great.
It's so amazing. So amazing. Yes. Well, yeah. So, I definitely want to talk about these new projects that you have going on. You told me that there's a couple of, or a bunch of, I'm sure you always have people hitting.
It's always a bunch of line.
Yeah, but you told me about some ones in particular, that are coming up. Yeah, this year. So let's talk about those.
Okay. Well, Dres and Dilla is a project that's coming up. Oh, and yes, that is a project. Dres from Black Sheep. Most of us that have any age. Well, I'm jumping back a couple of generations. I'm trying to be a little younger right now. My mind says I can remember. But we have that project, and I believe Chuck D is participating, and a few other artists. I'll have to get those names for you. But it's just amazing, the people that have come forth that want to be a part of it, because it's Dilla, and we're using music that we already have. And so we don't have to worry about that. It's a delicious vinyl project, and it's just going to be amazing. And we also have puppet project. We have Patches, that a boy named Patches that's beginning to do Dilla stories, and I'll be doing some of the narrating with the puppets, and that will be done because of the pandemic. I guess we'll be doing a lot online, and that will be in the coming months. But Patches, you can see, he has a lot of things on IG that he talks about, and it's a young boy, but around between 7 and 9, and school age, and learning different things and making friends universally. So we talk about Patches, and he'll be doing a lot of things to Dilla music and a lot of other things, for young people. So we're just not trying to do just Dilla, but we're trying to be family and to bring about storytelling like we used to have storytelling, for the families. How we used to sit down at grandma's knee and listen to things and to find out and to learn and to ask questions. I remember when children asked so many questions, you were like, my God, I hope he doesn't have another question kind of thing. But they've gotten away from it now because everything's so technical with the iPhones in hand and phones in hand. And we lose a lot of the communication. So this pandemic time has been a time to reach out and to touch base with our children and to re-evaluate what we do with our time, to take the extra few minutes to talk to our loved ones at home and to find out what they're doing, how they're feeling, what's on their mind. And it's something that we've gotten away from, and that's still very important to know how the person that you're living with is feeling and what they're thinking about, and make sure that they're doing well every day. It's another way of saying, I love you and I'm thinking I care. So we're doing a lot of things with the youth of all ages, and not just with the music, but we have puppets to address children and to talk about different things.
Wow, that sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Wow. And then you've got, there's a book, right, that's coming out? I think
yes, there's a book that's being published this year. It's called Dilla Time, and it's being done by Dan Charnas. And Questlove is helping him to do this project. And I forget which publishing house, but it was, I posted about it a couple years ago once it was accepted for publishing. And I'm so excited because it talks about Dilla and his theory with music and how he crafted a new way to play instrument. And musicians and drummers, not just drummers, but musicians have associated a new way through his teaching, how to play and love their instruments to get the sound that they wanted. That was not just traditional and, just like stuck in a format, but he gave the freedom, I believe, I would think, because I don't play an instrument, but this is what I think that it's about. Having that freedom to stay within where you're supposed to be, but to do other things. And yes, so that book tells about it. It's called Dilla Time, and it'll be out at least by the end of the year, I'm hoping. Because of the pandemic, I'm not sure exactly when. It would probably have been out already had it not been for the pandemic, but it's coming. So I'm excited about that.
I'm excited too, because, I think we always talk about how this whole genre of lo-fi
yes
is based on, I'd say, like the Dilla pantheon.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Dilla Time, I guess that's like the timing. He had a bit of like a drag or a slower type of timing.
Yes. And it was purposely. It was to make room for other things and that would come to mind. A lot of things he put aside, but everything he did was intentional. So it was not like he forgot or was waiting. It was definitely intentional. But once you master this set timing that he had, it's easy to understand. Because it had to be explained to me, and these are people that know and that play and that are top of the line in their fields, that appreciated that much to lend their ear and time and to put it together. So I'm just thrilled that the world is learning about Dilla, and on top of that, being in the Smithsonian Museum, of African American history and culture is another plus for Dilla, because he wasn't here to see it, but his work lives on, and I just love that, because every child can go and see and learn when those doors open back up without having to worry. My main thing was to be able to have young people educate themselves without having to have an admission price or something. This is what the big thing for me was, because growing up, I didn't have funds to do certain things, but I had, taken voice lessons as a young child, classical, and I know my mom had to pay, and she couldn't afford for me to do it, but she did as long as she could. And those things are important, that you have a desire to do something, and if you don't have the money, that you don't get the opportunity, those doors are shut. So it's very important to be able to give and pay it forward in some type of manner. And it doesn't always have to be financially, but just the giving of the gifts that open the door for Dilla to say, this is who I am, and these are the things that I did, and these are the people that I worked with. And it all ties together, because it's so much to learn about all of the great musicians and leaders in our heritage since the beginning of time, since the beginning of the time here in the U.S. that we know of. It's chronicled, and it's just a beautiful thing to be able to know what our ancestors did, how they did it and came through, and where we are now. It's a wonderful learning experience. It doesn't cost anything but to get there and to make it happen. And I think schools will begin to resume that, journey and to get to see the different things and to know the accomplishments that they can make that are possible.
And what's beautiful? I mean, Dilla is one of our ancestors now.
Yes.
And he's a part of that history. He's a part of our musical history.
Indeed, indeed.
He's part of our legacy of, and it's, he's born February the 7th. He passed February the 10th, right in the middle of Black History Month. And he's an amazing, modern, contemporary Black history figure that revolutionized, sound, right? And has a whole
yes, he really did. That's
producers, right?
Yes, that's mind-boggling, but it really happened. I witnessed it all, so I'm like just spellbound a lot of times, just reliving it. But just like I have these memories, and to watch the future J Dillas come along, by paying it forward. It's so many parents that have that gift in their home, and they will all come to fruition if they just open those doors and allow the children to participate and to learn at every opportunity until they discover who they really are. We really don't know who we have in our midst,
Wow. Oh, can you hear me, my dudes? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, when I hear about all of the things that, people have done over time, all these tributes, all these albums, all this merchandise, all this artwork, all this stuff. I just think of like what an imprint and an impact, that he's had on the world and just what he's given to us,
Yes.
His beautiful legacy that he's given to us. Can you take us back and just give us some Dilla history? Like, what was it like, in Coney Gardens,
Wow.
The young Dilla.
The young Dilla, playful for a few moments only, if you got him outside to play. He was easy to get along with as a child, and only had to scold him like for 1 week when in his supposedly they say terrible twos, but he had 1 week where I had to chastise him for touching something that I had asked him not to touch, only for that 5 to 7 day period. But I never had to do anything else after that. He was just crazy when it came to obedience. They listened, they were respectful, and they did what their mom said. And I never had to worry about him with school or homework or anything. All of the children, James, Earl, Martha, they all did excellent work, and they never had to study. I had to study growing up. They had to do homework. I had to study in order to do the homework. They never had to study because they were early readers. So they all, comprehended everything they read, loved reading, and loved the schoolwork. So that was a no-brainer for me. I had no problem there. He was easy to get along with, but all he ever wanted to do was play music. So from 2 years old, he spun records, and that was where he spent his time. He would play with his brother Earl, like around Christmas time when kids get toys or whatever, and we try to buy him something, but he never wanted anything but something musical. So if it wasn't a new turntable, like the bigger Fisher Price, that he might have got the smaller one first year. But if he got until he got maybe around 10 and he wanted turntables, that you could play music on. And then the next year you want to ask him what he wanted another turntable. Either he wanted bigger turntable, by the time he got into his teens, he wanted 2 turntables, but he wasn't gifted these things throughout the year. It was only Christmas time that they really got anything because we didn't have it like that in the household. Mr. Yancey had 2 families to provide for, his first family before he met me and we had our family. He had older siblings, you know, so Mr. Yancey had 2 families to care for. So it was not like he was able to splurge or do these things. And Dilla just like they appreciated what they had and did fine. But he was a prankster, I understand, a few times. I could never catch him anything, but of course they tell on him later on, you know, as he got older, they would tell me, you remember this, Mom? And it would be something that Dilla had done or made them do, and they probably got blamed for it, whatever. But he was very easy to get along with, loved his sister and brother. And then by the time he was, when he was 13, this is when John came along. He was a kid brother for real. Dilla was 13 when John came into the world. And so, yes, that was the kid brother that get the door slammed in his face kind of like thing going on in the house when they were teens. And because he would be riding his bike in the hallway in the house and they'd be like, oh my God, here he comes again. So it was like this crazy house. But it was good. He was really respectful and obedient. He loved playing music. He took piano lessons. Before he was 5, he started taking piano lessons in Craneswood Piano School. But he wasn't, he did well, but he wasn't comfortable. You know, you can tell if your kids, when they come home, if they're excited about it, talking about what they learned, he'd do the lessons and be ready the next Saturday to go, you know. But he didn't have the excitement, enthusiasm that I wanted him to have. And that's when he started taking piano lessons with Professor Minor, School of Music. He was a pianist for our church choir, Vernon Chapel in Conant Gardens. And Dilla started taking piano lessons there. So he loved that. He was already playing violin in Atkinson Elementary, along with Martha and Earl. They were all taking instrument and playing that. And Dilla was taking it because it was mandatory, you know. But at that time, he was interested in other instruments. So by the time he got to junior high, he wanted to play drums, and Miss McConnell had no open for him. But she told him, she said, if you will play this cello for me, I promise to get you the drums by the next semester. And he really didn't want to, but he thought he would be able to do it just while he was in school. He didn't know he was going to have to take that thing home to rehearse. So he said, okay, but he actually was cutting down alleys to get home with that cello because he didn't want anybody to see him catch it. And he was supposed to catch the bus from Farwell to home, but he was too embarrassed. So that's what happened. We found out once that he left it, his teacher called and said, well, he left. He was supposed to bring his cello, but I'll drop it off. She said, if you give me the directions, because he was supposed to have it and we have a concert coming up. So she bought it and she wanted to know why. But he just finally told us then that I don't want to be seen carrying a big thing. He was embarrassed because nobody he knew was playing cello. You know, it wasn't a popular thing to do. So he mastered that in a couple of months and was playing at spring concerts for the high school graduations and everything. So, you know, he learned to love it and he mastered it. He could play the flute after 15 minutes with a book, Martha's Flute, along with the music book. He'd take it upstairs, come down, ready to play all through the book. He just was gifted like that. He could read music and he loved it and he just got with it. So he was able to do that, you know, and play keyboard. So it was a no-brainer for him. He learned guitar by way of Aunt Fiddler. So,
wow, this is like amazing. And you remember in the Suite for My Duke's film, they have a chair for him in the cello section.
Yes, that brought tears to my eye when I saw that, just watching it all night and knowing that they had set it up. It was the most beautiful presentation and tribute that I think I had ever seen at that time. It was so meaningful, and I had no idea that was going to happen. I was there for dress rehearsal the day before because they flew me out to California for it. And I remember going and listening to some of the rehearsal. I don't know why I was there at the dress rehearsal. I was thinking that I had to be there for some particular reason, but I guess it was just because the whole band was there with 60-piece orchestra, and they were, feeding everybody. It was, geez, I'm trying to think.
But the people that were like rapping on it and stuff?
They came and they did they didn't do that till the night before, I believe, but it was just the orchestra. But they knew that those people that rapped, like, Paz and Bilal and everybody that came out, and Amp, everybody, and Dwele, everybody that came out and sang, they knew their song. They played it and did the songs. It didn't take but maybe one take, for them to play it and be happy. The instruments were just like amazing. The orchestra was like so on point. I've never been so excited listening to an orchestra before. And I've always loved classical music and studied it since a kid. But I was thrilled beyond measure that night. Just the fact that his music, and I knew every song, from the rap songs. Everybody in the audience knew what song it was when the first few notes hit. Everyone just like, the crowd was just like beside themselves. They could hardly sit in the seats. And half the night, it was standing ovations during the entire performances. It was just so outstanding.
And Kareem Riggins was the drummer.
Yes, he was the drummer. Yes. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Outstanding performance. But then he and Kareem had long history, and they had lots of time spent together and did a lot of music together over the years, and did a lot of music in Studio A together.
Yeah, and then and Talib was on that. Talib Kweli rapped on there. Paz the News from De La was on there.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, and it was amazing. It was really beautiful.
They all were very close to Dilla personally.
Yeah, Bilal. It was just beautiful. Oh my God, Bilal did his thing. Remember
yes,
that?
It did. Yes, that's one of my favorite songs. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. He did it.
Cello piece, man. I cried too, my Dukes, when I saw that cello piece.
I know. It was like almost like his spirit would be there watching and nodding. And I know that
it was amazing.
I was so happy. I don't know it was a thrill that I don't think I've ever experienced. It was just a different type of thrill that I got from that. And it was so warm. And I just felt that he was happy that his music had taken on that measure.
And can you talk about, because throughout the years, he worked with some of the people who are, super major, right?
Oh yes. Like, geez, who didn't he work with? Every day I'm finding out new stuff, and every year I'm finding out more people that he did work for that didn't come forth until late, and people that he did work with in yesteryear, should I say. But he never talked about a lot of the things that he did because he didn't think anything special about it. It's just that he did a superior job for everyone that he took on. And he wanted them to be happy with the work that he did. And that was the most that he wanted. It wasn't, for him, it wasn't about the money. Of course, he enjoyed what he could get, and he enjoyed having a ride, even though he couldn't spend a lot of time riding around because he was busy making music all the time. But he enjoyed having a few things in life that he had earned. But for him, he would pay it forward in a heartbeat. He'd help anyone in need. And it was more about the joy he got from seeing someone smile because he did something that they wanted, that he had finally gotten together what they really wanted and for their music. That's what made him proud.
And he did, when Janet Jackson came out and changed her sound and wanted to become more contemporary.
Exactly.
He helped her, he created that new sound for her.
Yeah, exactly. It got till it's gone. Yeah.
And the Tribe Called Quest, you know,
Yes.
when they wanted to change their song and become more contemporary, right?
Indeed, and it
He
worked too.
revolutionized their sound, right?
Yes, indeed. They got Grammy. I'm telling you, even Common's first gold album, Busta got platinum and gold albums through Dilla's work. You know, he put himself to the iron. You know what I mean? He stuck the irons in the fire, made it happen, and used his mind and his skills. He had a relationship with music and the development of music that was mind-boggling.
Wow. I mean, he worked with Erykah Badu.
Oh yeah, she'd come and record and spend a week there at the house, you know, going over trying to get her album together for whatever year, you know, whatever new album she had. She always has done Dilla work.
And she has that tribute, The Healer.
Yes.
You know, The Healer is dedicated to Dilla.
Exactly. And
I mean, the list goes on and on, right? I mean, Love always talks about Dilla and his influence. Robert Glasper has projects, right?
Oh my God, yes, the Blue Note Project a year ago. It was amazing. Well, it was 2019, but it was October of 2019 and at the Blue Note. And that's when he had a dedication for Dilla. And also we celebrated my husband Tony's birthday that night. He didn't know at the last minute because that was a surprise. And then Robert Glasper introduced the Save the Music program to those in New York that didn't know about it. It was just a wonderful collaboration of things together. And Slum was represented. T3 came perform jazz style on all of the tracks, the Slum tracks that Robert Glasper had him do, and some other tunes that were not Slum, and T3 tore it down. I had no idea he could sing like that. I'm like, oh my God, he could have been a jazz artist if he wanted to. I was like thrown back because, you know, it's like he almost raised up in the house with me. They were there rehearsing every day. And I never heard his voice like that, you know, and I was so thrilled. And Bilal and Common dropped in for that night. And oh my God, who did it? Everybody dropped in. When we went upstairs for a break, I think everybody I could imagine had been there that night and came through. But the place was on jam. It was like mind-boggling. I got 1,000 pictures from that night on my computer. And you know how you should be condensing some things and I can't take it down yet. It was just an amazing, amazing event. And it's just so much love that they would come through for a dedication like that. You know?
And then what was like, you know, because when I think of J Dilla, right, I'm approaching it as a fan. You know, I became familiar with his music through a mixtape that and this was the year he passed away.
Okay.
And so for me, you know, living in Detroit, I'm so connected to all these different figures who were actually, you know, with him, made music with him, were a part of that history. But I'm wondering, as his mother, what are some pivotal moments, whether in Detroit or just, you know, over time, you know, since either since the inception of him making music or since, you know, he's passed, that you can, you know, remember as like, wow, that, you know, was a really great, you know, project that he did with this person. Are there some things that kind of stand out for you?
Well, I love everything that he's ever done. I can't say that I haven't been excited about all of his music because I had turned from a classical lady and a gospel lady to a hip hop head, you know, overnight seems. But I've always loved his music because it seemed to be infused a little bit with jazz, and so that made it more comfortable to draw myself into it. And I think that all his music was good. I think geez, I'm trying to separate it and to like categorize it. All of the moments were great. I think when he was when Tribe was nominated for a Grammy, and we were all excited in the house, was jumping up and down, crazy. That would have been something, that he would have been excited with me. And I'm running downstairs, and actually Talib was there that night and was telling Dilla, come upstairs, what it said. He's like, oh, I don't care about that. And he wouldn't, he didn't care about the nominations. And he was like, man, you don't, he didn't care because he was behind the bar making music. That's what was important. He didn't care about any of the fluff. He just believed that a lot of people that probably did deserve them were not even recognized. And that's sort of like where he was at, is that, yes, well, this is good and this is beautiful, and I'm very happy about it, but how many other people did they not recognize that have done good and beautiful work? And so that's sort of like the lane he would stay in. He didn't want to take things for granted. He just loved what he did, and if you were serious about music, he would take that time, and to help you. But if you came down there and you weren't strictly business, that would be your last time coming. He would never, yeah, he would never let you back. He didn't feel any kind of way about it either.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
I felt like a little embarrassed a couple times, but he didn't. He said, no, I don't have time for that. And he meant it, and he didn't mince words, and I knew better than to question it. Like I said, I was at certain times his employee, not his mom. So I knew the distinction and when to say something, and he knew his business better than me. I was not the one making the beat. So I had to get in my own place. Homemaking is what I do, and childcare. So.
And yeah, let's talk about you. Like, let's start. Well, you got this, award. Tell us about this amazing award you got.
The most amazing award is it's the, can I pick it up real quick for you? One second.
Yeah, of course.
I want to say it right.
What's incredible, my Dukes, is that people are always sending you trinkets and gifts and t-shirts and merchandise and telling you about music that they made that's a tribute to J Dilla, or I know coming to you with project ideas, or coming to you with ideas about how to do that they want to do a tribute, or they want to do a show, or they want to create some artwork, or a video, or something. And it's just really cult-like, honestly. Like the whole Dilla pantheon, the Dilla thing, it's like a cult in and of itself, or like a cult following.
Yes, they describe it as a cult following. This award, before I say anything about it, had it not been for your participation and help, Piper, and leadership and introduction, this would not be sitting on my table. I'm going to just read this short card. It said, Dear Maureen Yancey, aka My Dukes, on behalf of the Hip Hop Education Center, we are honored to present you with the 2015 Extra Credit Award. This is recognition of your exceptional ability to use the STEAM, social and hip hop, and advance the field of education and health. You are receiving an exclusive award designed by Carlos Mayer, esteemed graffiti artist and sculptor, who, along with designing the BET Awards, is internationally renowned. And This was presented to me by Martha Diaz, who I have the utmost respect for and love her to death, and get so excited whenever I get invited to NYU to conferences and to speak on hip hop education. I've taken part of that since that time, Piper, and I owe you that because I wouldn't be part of it had it not been for you. And every time I get an invitation, I'm on my way to New York, And it's the Hip Hop Extra Credit Center, and it's centered on all of the aspects of hip hop, all of the elements, and education being key. And it's just a beautiful award. And I'll have to send you a picture of it so that you can have it.
Yeah, I mean, and my Dukes, you have been carrying the foundation for over a decade. And so, the award is just one aspect, but let's learn a little bit more about you because, Dilla grew up in a house of music, and you also are, a person who is of music,
I'm glad you said it like that because I'm not a musician because I'm in my mindset, unless you know how to play an instrument. I always tell everybody, say, "Oh, what do you play?" I said, "No, I don't play any instrument." They say, "What you sing?" I said, "Yes, but it's not the same." Okay, for me anyway. But yes, I grew up in a musical household where it was different genres played. My mother loved country music, and we'd have to clean house to country music every Saturday. And the only distinction that we would have from that, it would be Sam Cooke. She would play some Sam Cooke. Other than that, and we'd be waiting for that because we didn't know all the words to all the country songs, but she'd be playing, and that's how we clean house. Okay, on Saturdays. It was her day off. And then we had an aunt that liked blues, and then we all liked church music. And at the time, as I was a young girl, I wasn't in a choir, but I used to adore listening to choir singing in church when I was a kid. And as I got older, I was able to join choirs and to sing. It was in junior high school that I had joined Wayne State Honors Choir. So I was still able to carry that on. And that's why I used my security blanket to hide under, because nobody that I knew or in the family liked that type of music. So I could blame it on the curriculum, but I was totally enjoying it and loving it. I've always loved that and opera. And I remember growing up as a kid, the two records that I had that I loved so much that I had asked for at Christmas time was a record by Leontine Price. And I got an album by Leontine Price, the opera singer. And I couldn't tell you where it is today. I have a suspicion that one of my siblings got rid of it while we were moving or something. They hated it, and they used to play flying saucers with it, Piper, but when my mom wasn't around. But I loved opera. I studied classical music in the schools, and by third grade, I was singing at eighth grade in high school graduations. And that was specifically because I loved it. It was easy for me. I love music so much. And of course, I didn't have any competition because I don't think anybody else in my class wanted to sing that kind of music. So it was a piece of cake. I learned the song, and the teacher would spend that time with me over the weekend. I'd have an hour or so to work with her and to get the song down for the graduations or things like that. And I just loved it. And I always sang in choir since then. I was in a contemporary gospel group in Coleman Gardens for over 30 years. And we sang all around the city, called A Positive Force. And we sang at different churches. We were from all different denominations, but we came together to sing contemporary gospel and to just, be a help to any organizations that might be having programs around the city that needed somebody to sing, and also to sing when we could at our church, which was Vernon Chapel some of the members there, but some were Baptist Church of God in Christ. It didn't matter. It was about the goodwill that you would do that we came together.
That's beautiful.
So yes, I spent a lot of time. And then when I met Mr. Yancey, he was a jazz musician playing upright bass. And he sang jazz. And when I first met him, I had auditioned for him. I just did it to see, could I pass the audition, Piper? I was not even looking to sing anywhere. I was actually working every day at Internal Revenue, and I had no intention of singing. I just was something that my aunt said, well, you should do this, because I went to a friend's home at Christmas time with her and my mom, and she heard me singing. You know how you sit and you're having a good time, and my somebody will play music. Okay, saying, would you say, Maureen, would you sing this song? And at that time, Aretha Franklin was one of my favorites. And so they asked me to sing a couple of tunes. And then after that, a couple of more. And so then the lady said, well, I had never been to her home before. She said, well, I want you to sing that again from a friend of mine. And it happened to be that friend that I sang for was Mr. Yancey. And that's how I met him, through the audition.
Wow.
So that came about. But I was not interested in that. I was not giving up my Internal Revenue job to be singing somewhere. I wasn't trying to do that. I had been singing, and it wasn't opera. I had just started to doing a jazz thing. So, yeah, I wasn't comfortable like that to do it. But I learned, because he would help so many people. He would help anybody that wanted to learn how to sing, because he had been a musician for like over 25 years. And so he still loved to do it, and to the people for free, just because they loved it. And so that's another reason that Dilla had a lot more in the house.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so as you were, in this group, in the forces of nature.
Positive force. Uh-huh.
Oh, positive force. Positive force.
Positive force.
What time period is this?
Oh,
I mean, I know it's 30 years, but...
Yes, upon the time, it was, let me see, was Illa J? No, before I even got pregnant with Illa J. So this was like 80s, up until, until John was at least a teen in high school.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so, whenever they would ask or something, it was like Mr. Yancey didn't like me the time, because he wasn't that interested. He had learned so much about music. It was like it was taking, he felt like he was going backwards to participate sometimes, so he just like made it hard. I'm like, I'm enjoying every moment of the singing, because we're doing everything, even classical, so he was like, oh my goodness. So he didn't like that so much. So he tried to make it hard, so I would be able to get the music together for concerts. So what I would do is, he didn't know that I would get the music for the concert, and it could be 18 songs. And I hadn't made the rehearsals, but I tell the girls, I said, okay, somebody record it tonight, get it to me by tomorrow, and I'll be ready by concert time. Concert will be 2 days from there, and I know every song, every part in time. So that's how much I love music. It's like nothing was going to keep me from being there for the performance, and be able to hold up my part, because I was the first soprano, and I knew that a lot of songs need that bottom and the top, everybody to stay where they're supposed to be. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And there's nothing greater than the love of something in your heart nobody can take away. And music has been that for me since I was a kid. And I knew that Dilla shared that in his own way. I didn't know if it meant as much to him. I knew that's all he had time for, was like a science for him. It's like a little professor, I would call him, would never get up from the, all of the bottles and everything, to try to figure out what formula he was doing. It was like that. It was a science to him. He had to figure out and to make it happen and to do and complete. And for me, music was like a healing balm, because of the things that I dealt with growing up as a child and hardships. It soothed the absence of things that I needed or felt that I needed. And it made me comfortable with myself. And that's what it did for me. And so, in that, it helped to build my self-esteem. So I'm sure that it did as much or more for Dilla as it would for anybody that was involved in it, because it has a way of touching your mind and your spirit and the energy that you get.
Yeah, I mean, I think about, you were a vocalist, and, Mr. Yancey, God rest his soul, was a bassist, a jazz bassist. So
Yes.
the music, the love of music, like that totally makes sense,
Yes.
as being something that was just like theirs, natural.
Yes, and I must not leave out the fact that all of the children in the house had to learn to sing at an early age. I started working with Faith when she was 2, and that's my granddaughter, as you know, who just turned 21 last year. Okay, and actually, my children started around 4 years old, and we started training them to sing along with us, and we had songs that we would sing as a family. Mr. Yancey would give parts. You have to learn your part and know it well and be able to be where your note changed to. If he decided to switch it up, you'd have to know where to go. He was an intricate writer like that, and that's what he expected. And so all the kids were able to sing. But we taught them by Manhattan Transfer songs, a cappella. So that's how we trained them. So they all knew. And Dilla was one. He could do any part, any part, yeah.
And so, what's interesting, you can hear the jazz and the appreciation for the voice, right? Like the vocal stylings. I think that's what Dilla brought, in creating the neo soul, was the vocalist into the hip hop.
It was. You hit the nail on the head. That is exactly what changed and what transpired. That was like so sweeping, to be able to take the right music and to blend it with something, and the blend had to be right, and it was so beautiful. And so I guess that's why I caught fire like that, because we still had a need for the R&B flavor. Rap hadn't taken everything out because we already had been infused with R&B and pop music, but then they tried to change the genre of pop. So it was a need for neo soul.
Yeah, and it's interesting at the time that it came along.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about the range of artists, right, that he worked with.
Yes.
Right? Like he had such a broad range of artists that he...
Broad range, all styles.
All styles, right?
Yes.
And it makes sense now, hearing you speak about what the household was like,
It was. It's definitely musical household. He could be downstairs making beats or working with Slum, and we could be in the living room rehearsing with our group, because not just the positive force, but Mr. Yancey and I were part of a jazz quartet, a cappella quartet, for a couple of years called the Larks. And this was composed of one of the girls that he worked with at Ford Motor Company, Allen Park, and myself, and a girl named Dorothy. I forgot Dorothy's last name, but she was a realtor and a friend of Dolores's. And we got together and we did a cappella jazz. And we not only did a cappella jazz, but we were all in church. So we decided to put some songs together spiritually and do a spin on spiritual songs with our jazz flavor. And that's what we did. And we sang a cappella every time. And we did quite a few concerts at our different churches. The Larks did. And that was fun. But I remember Dilla came upstairs one day and told us during our rehearsal, he said, Ma, he said, I don't know when, but I'm working on something right now. He said, and I want you guys to sing. I want you guys to sing on some intros, some stuff I'm working on. However, that that time never came because that's around the time just before he started having difficulty with his hands and he had to put some things aside. But we were always waiting with bated breath, for that call to be a part of something that Dilla was doing. Yeah, that was one of the things that he had said he wanted to do. And I was so hoping that would have happened. It would have been really fun to do.
Mm. And then when he was working, what's interesting, I think about this sort of, I guess, like kind of typical vision that you have of a parent, right? When a kid is working on some music, but it seems as though he was nurtured in his home and had that space, right? Encouragement.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't a couple of times that Mr. Yancey didn't say, could you tell him, it'll be late. He'd be rehearsing it. And Mr. Yancey would say, could you tell him to turn it down a little bit? And I would get angry with Mr. Yancey and I would tell him, no, I'm not going to tell him to turn it down because he's working. I would tell him, I'd rather him be downstairs with a little bit, but it wasn't like so loud because our basement was really well, it was pretty tightly built. However, the bass, Dilla used heavy bass in most of his stuff. And the bass would, the actual bass speakers were, our bedroom was right above it, should I say. So every beat of the bass, our heads were bouncing off the pillow, at night. So even though it was kind of like frustrating, as a mom, I took comfort in the fact that I know he was doing something constructive. He wasn't in the street or doing anything wrong. And that I could trust and know that he wasn't going to do anything or, get ridiculous or, whatever. So, yeah, I'd have to just like put my foot down.
Dukes, that it's amazing that his father, right, is a bass player and then his music is heavy in bass.
Yes, exactly. But another thing, Piper, now he used to put Dilla to sleep at night as an infant using the bass runs with his mouth.
Wow.
So that's what he was used to. He would play Dilla's he'd do the bass runs with his mouth and he would rock him on a knee, right? But Dilla, he'd be patting him on his stomach and running the bass runs while he'd run his finger across his tummy. And so that's how he put on his sleep. He'd rock him to sleep like that. Because Dilla was not a night baby. He didn't want to go to bed. He wanted to be up. And sometimes Mr. Yancey had to work or go in for a day or something, and or extra hours. He'd be tired, and I would have to put him to sleep. And I wasn't good with that knee rocking thing, and I definitely couldn't do the bass runs. So I'd be trying to go to sleep, and I would be so tired, Piper. And a couple of times, Mr. Yancey would get up and find me almost nodding with Dilla on my lap, and he like, oh, I'll take him, and just get him to put the bed because Dilla was like wide-eyed looking, and he was like not trying to go to bed, but he was not that night person. He never ever was. He worked for 2 or 3 days straight sometime without taking a nap or a good nap and going to bed. And I would, complain to him because it wasn't healthy. But if he was working on a project or like Q-Tip or Questlove had something to do or somebody was in town like Common or something and he's trying to finish a project, he was not going to bed till it was finished. So, I always make sure that I had a deli tray on a bar for him downstairs and all his little snacks. I shopped for him so that he would have every snack in the world in the basement for all of his guests. Even if they were vegan, I would have shopped for certain kind of cookies for Common when he come and different little things. And it was like a candy store and everything else down there. So he would not have to go out to the gas station or anything. They would have everything they needed there. And I would cook food because I knew they were coming because I was like too thrilled to cook food. I'd be so excited, that they were coming.
Wow. This is so amazing just to hear.
Yeah.
You can kind of imagine being there,
Yeah, it was just wonderful. It was like, I was the fly on the wall. I was, I knew it was happening. I was so thrilled. I was so proud of him. But he was, you couldn't talk about it much because he didn't like people making over him. Like when Slum came out and they were had newspapers on the front pages of newspapers and stuff like Free Press and News. And I got to the daycare that next morning, and my staff came, and they had papers waiting for me to take to James when I go home for the break, for him to sign them. And I didn't get a chance to go home that day. And I hadn't even seen the papers. They knew about stuff before I did. And actually, that same day, James came to see me at the daycare because I hadn't got off, and Q-Tip was with him. He brought Q-Tip up to the daycare. And so my staff, they were going bonkers. They knew about him because they had talked to him many times when he called the house to talk to James, but Q-Tip was in the flesh at the daycare, So they were like going crazy, and I was so excited. And I was so thrilled and happy to see him, And I asked James, and he was insulted by me asking him to sign those newspapers. So I didn't do that anymore. Because he was like, no, I can't do it. I said, "Which, you can't sign it?" He wouldn't autograph it. He said, no. He said, I can't do that. He said, I'm not, I'm not the person to be doing something like that. I said, well, they just want one autograph, whatever. He said, no, I can't do it. He said, I don't want anybody thinking of me like that. I'm just me. And that's how he felt. Wow. So I had to learn to respect it, because I was like a little, like teased off, because I'm like, I just want him to sign one name, just scribble something, but he didn't want to do it. I'm sure that they think about, they wish they had it now, because I'm sure they kept the magazines and keepsakes, but he didn't feel that he was worthy of that. He, it was just James.
So, okay, so he's gotten, at this point, so many projects after his passing, Yes. There's been so much stuff is just so amazing. But we're talking about so much music. Yes. And he was born on February the 7th. He passed on February the 10th.
Yes.
I think about, like I said, this is he's a contemporary, Black history figure.
Yes.
I'm wondering, like, with all the things that all the things that about, right, that have existed, what do you feel like you'd like to see that you really haven't seen, in terms of something that would commemorate, his legacy?
Well, wow, that's just, I've been so blessed. I think that what I would love to see is in his hometown, even if it's by the foundation's hands, an event put together to pay tribute to him and to honor youth that are perhaps like in the Save the Music program by some kind of way, and also to help us support some needy school there. Some of the teachers that don't have chapters in different places, like Boston. Oh, that's one place I forgot. It's a chapter. Okay. Boston, there's are two people there that are working with the youth. And one of them is a school for children with special needs. And these children were like so overwhelmed with the Dilla music. And I got a call from them a year ago as they were celebrating Dilla Day on his birthday. And the kids were so excited. And they called me up on the phone from there. And it just like made me want to cry. And I knew these children, they couldn't sit still very well to do regular assignments. And they were something to deal with, okay, academically, for teachers to deal with. But they paid so much attention to what they learned in music appreciation and about Dilla. And they were so excited to call me on the phone and to tell me that they were celebrating Dilla's birthday. And these are kids like under 10. And they were so excited. And my deuce, I listened to Dilla beats, and they were so excited. And I just could not believe it. And I knew about these children before. And I also know that there are teachers that, especially one in Florida, that teaches children for the deaf. And by some means, she uses Dilla's music, and it soothes them. I don't know which particular ones. Maybe I'm thinking maybe the Sweet or something is from my mind, because I never asked. I was so almost brought to tears when she was telling me, but she uses it in her music, in her class during the time they do music, because they appreciate it and it seems to soothe them and calm them down. And they appreciate it so much. So Dilla has reached not just college students that use his music to get through their finals. I've been told millions of times, or people that need it, or relate to some of the things that he talks about. But even when times are not happy times, that music has a place for different ages and in different situations. So I'm just so thrilled about it. But I'd like to see something done on a grand scale or coming together in his hometown, because it was so many years that his hometown didn't know about him. And I just like to see something done on a grander scale. 2019, in October, I gave a dinner, which was provided by the foundation at Vernon Chapel School, just to kind of get the parents in the area to know that some of the children were interested in music and the different careers that were open besides rapping and other things, you know what I mean? And about the STEM program and different things that excite children and make them open and expand their minds. And I had flew a gentleman out from North Carolina, and I flew a gentleman out from Minnesota that works with us at the Minnesota chapter. And they talked about it, and Super MC performed there too that night. And it was at the church, and it was just so beautiful. We had a full sit-down dinner, and compliments of myself and my sister. We did the cooking ourselves. and with Vernon Chapel helping, and of course, Joanne Adams. Thank you, Joanne, for always being that one, helped us out. And it was a beautiful affair. It was wonderful upstairs. A lot of people had the dinner and they didn't stay for the entertainment after, and they missed it. It was just wonderful. And for the young people that were there, they learned. It was just a beautiful thing. All ages were there. Mr. Nice Guy showed up. He came anyway, even with his wheelchair. And I was so glad that they had the chairlift. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful affair. And it wasn't that in the numbers, but I'd like to do it on a grander scale and have people really come and participate, so that they can see the good that Dilla is doing, even while he's not here, that is growing. And it's a grassroots thing that it will never end. It's an ongoing thing. And as long as I live, I know, and as long as people like you, Piper, are living, that need to supply the children with what they need to grow into bigger, better, stronger, and more conscious people will be met. So that's what I'm looking for, something like that to sink my teeth into. Foundation is all about that. It's all about the children. So that's why it hasn't been a lot of music things as of late, because we've been thinking about the children and things to reach the children, things in different ways to reach the children, because the age group they're listening for Dilla is getting younger. So we have to address those children too with the right Dilla stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. And I mean, there's Dilla curriculum that are in university as well.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Arizona State has designed one specifically for the safety music. So they already have oh my God, it's Dilla curriculum everywhere. And then, of course, Dan Charner's teaching at NYU. And I get a chance to go there every year. I missed it, going this past year, because I love it when I go there and meet the students, face to face and sit in the classroom. And it's amazing the things that have come out of those classrooms, and that the college curriculum is there. It's Dilla curriculum is live and well in the colleges.
Yeah. And I think about it, You have the is it the lupus walk?
Yes,
President
yes,
does?
yes. I think one of the most outstanding has been Atlanta. They never fail bring the numbers out. California has done well. We rest in peace, State New York. Has been the catalyst for some tremendous walks in Cali. And when you go to my website, you'll see that he's still there, alive and well. On their website, I can't take him down. He's just part of what I do. He held it high for me and raised it up for Dilla, and supported me until he left here. And I'm so grateful for so many people that have paved the way for me to do what I feel in my heart is right. And I live for this. This is why I'm alive today. I truly, truly believe that God has extended my time because I have a charge to keep, and it's for young people to be able to have opportunity to do God's gift to the world. They all have a gift to bring forth.
Wow.
And somebody has to.
Uncle Herman, Uncle Herman had the donut.
Yes. I just talked to him a couple of days ago.
And the
yes,
girls
indeed.
were working there, right? The Dilla
Yes. He tried so hard. He had a hard time, but he hasn't given up yet. He hasn't really thrown in the towel. Although he won't be at that spot. I know my brother, and you'll hear from him soon. I think soon as pandemic's over, we'll find out what arm he's on now. Because he has so many offers to come so many different places where he would have full support. But it's really rough. And business wise and industry wise in some places, and that location was like not beneficial to what he had to do. I think, not to mention that I feel like he was trying to maybe forced out of that spot because of the need for somebody else to get in there to do whatever. But I'm going to leave that alone because I don't know. I'm not in the deep. But, it was a good work and something good came out of it. And people came from Paris and everywhere else and made it their business to stop and get their pictures there and they get their donuts and different things from there. And he loves it with his whole heart, But he has not thrown in the towel, so he'll be doing something.
Yeah, and that's Dilla Donuts. And then, my Dukes, as far as like the merchandise and stuff, the merchandise is incredible.
Yes, merchandise is good. We're having it's like divided around, and I had to, like you said about, we talked about following protocol and doing things, and so that's why I had to revamp because things have to be done in a certain manner. Business is business. It has no pleasure, has no place in it. And
when we would do the youth day, right?
Yes.
The youth from Stitching Up Detroit, they would design an amazing design just for Dilla Youth Day. And we would buy the T-shirts from them and they would be the event just like printing out their shirts. And then I just, it's funny, we never charged for anything and people would come and be like, oh, you should put this design out. But we were always like, no, that design is just for the kids, just for this event. Because, we know that people were always making fake Dilla merch.
I know. But you know what? See, that was a session to the roof. I done it. But we'll address that later. And guess what? My Dukes has a printer in the home now.
Hey.
I guess it's brand new in a box. So I said, that'll be my next thing, learn how to print T-shirts. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's so many people would be making just like crazy fake.
There are. And I
Dilla merch out there.
I think I'd like to do some official My Dukes things and hands-on, Yeah.
Yeah, and over time, you've done some of there is real Dilla merch. You know, you've
Oh
done
yeah.
some very legitimate collaborations with people
Oh
on
yeah.
merch.
Yes, yes, indeed. If you don't see my Dukes posted, then you know it's not legit. That's the only way I can say, because people, you can't keep your finger on everything all the time. But yes, if you see my name, or you see official My Dukes or Vintage Vibe Music logo on it, then you know it's official. Other than that, it's not official, because I always coin everything, even without Vintage Vibe. I approve any and everything first, and so if my name is not on it, or you don't see me posted on my page, you know it's fake.
And then he has the toy, the Dilla toy that's made by Syntex.
Yes, but that was not. That wasn't official. That
Oh,
was done. Yeah, but that got biased by somebody that shouldn't have been approving it without their family's approval. But
oh,
that's what under the bridge thing.
I got
We, I was there at the Fillmore when Syntex first brought it to us and see that night at the Dilla event, and loved it. But then he went otherwise with it, and he never addressed it, because we were really, interested and wanted to do it. But I guess somebody else probably had a better offer. So that's how that went. But there will be another one coming along. But for now, we're going to keep working with patches, and most likely, because we have kids that are younger starting out, I think that we'll start out with a soft Dilla doll, as well as one. I want one to look like him, not like a caricature, but to look like him. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm. So,
and then you have the various, projects, like instrumental projects. You named one earlier. Can you rename it as we're closing? I want to just touch back again on the musical project, before we go.
You mean the VH1?
The one with you said there was Chuck D and Dres from Black Youth, and it's going to be
the Dres and Dilla project. Okay, Dres and Dilla project, and Chuck D it takes part in that. And I'm going to have to get back with you with the other names, but there are other well-known, top of the line artists that are participating in that project. So just look for Dres and Dilla. That will be out this year.
Yeah,
coming soon.
That's great. And then
we'll have video as well. So that it's going to be something that's going to be fun.
And then where can people follow up so that they can be part of what is officially, going on with the J Dilla legacy? Okay,
well, you can always reach me on at the www.jdillafoundation.org, and it'll take you direct to my site, which will link you to the James with Yancey Foundation.org. Either of those.
And then on social media,
and that will take you to everything that we do, everything that we are doing, and it will even list certain things that I forgot to mention. You can log on and see, and you can see video or clippets of different things like Wyclef Jean and different things as we promote different things, Dilla. And also you can find, see the students at Central High School in Detroit talk about the Save the Music Dilla Tech Grant.
And then on social media, what are the official social media accounts?
Okay, the official social media accounts. There are so many. Ooh, wait, let me see. Okay. That would be the James D. Yancey Foundation.org. That's the foundation page. The www.jdillafoundation.org. That's the merch site. Our Facebook account is the James DeWitt Yancey Foundation. And you can also go to official J Dilla.
Okay. And that's officialjdilla.com?
.com. And I believe that one is under construction because that's the one that Illa J is heading.
Okay. Okay. And then what's Illa J up to? I know he got
Illa J. Yeah, Illa J. Oh my God. He is so like amazing. He's always doing something. During the pandemic, he's rejuvenating himself in the sports thing. Because when he went to Central Michigan, it was all about the sports. We thought he was going to go off of basketball, but he gotten into the sports sciences instead while he was there. So he's up with he never stopped with the exercise and the weights. He's on a daily regimen forever and ever. That's probably why he has the stamina to do the shows by himself, But he's making more music. He's still doing work for people on the side and creating some of his own new music. I can't even imagine how many pieces. He probably got a couple of albums done by now. He's taking up, he started, when I talked to him last week, he was running to his regimen. And he and his wife, they do a lot of nature type things, like they go out into the desert areas, and she's an artist. And so she paints and does also graphic arts as well as painting. And I mean, they're just like mind blowing, the things that they do together. They eat right. You know what I mean? So when I was there, I ate right while I was in their home, like when I went to visit a year ago. And it's just, I'm just so pleased and happy about his life. And he's totally happy. I was really happy, to see that he got married. Even though pandemic time, couldn't be there, but I love the pictures. And he's going to be working with me on these new Dilla things. After this pandemic, it's going to be a lot new big Dilla things coming along. And of course, Piper, you will be one of the first to know because we'll be in touch and as we go along. But I'm talking about big things that people have been waiting for. People want to see him on film and something about it. And so we're going to make that come to fruition, and there's a lot of people in the pipeline waiting. But a pandemic is, we have to see first. And I'm glad that we didn't sign on to do anything particular, not knowing how things pan out for a lot of people. A lot of people and companies are not going to be where they were last year. So I'd say I've been grateful that God gave me that time, to think and to wait, be patient, because he has plans,
Indeed.
The Most High.
And then you're married now too, right?
Oh, yes. I've been married like
at least 5 years.
6 years already.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm probably going to be 7 this year. And I've been in Puerto Rico for 6 years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. And are you still living in Detroit at part-time?
Well, whenever I come, yes, I have. I'm staying with Martha back and forth when I come there, but not on Wexford Street. No longer there. She said it was time to move. We moved to Warren, and so that's where I go to Warren to visit with her, and then I'm here in Puerto Rico, and since the pandemic, that's where I've been home in Puerto Rico. Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Wow. This is beautiful, my Dukes. I really appreciate you spending the time to.
Are you kidding? I've enjoyed every single moment of it. It was so good to catch up. And there's some people that you know and love, and it could be 10 years and it seems like yesterday.
Well, I'm looking forward to these projects and the many more, and especially things that are coming out this year and even the
big plans for next year. Yeah. Yes. I'm looking for some tumultuous things that are going to happen, Piper, and your name is already being carved. Oh, and speaking of that award that I got, the very first award, I have it in storage in Michigan, and I intend to bring it here to Puerto Rico so I can look at it every day. I miss that. It's set on my table in the living room every day, and it's one of the most beautiful pieces that I've ever seen, and the work is so well done. And also, remember Joy Delano?
Yes.
Yes, I talked to him not that long ago. We keep in touch. And because I still remember all the magnificent things and works that he did while he was there at 5D.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, man, we really, really, really appreciate.
You raised him all right.
Appreciate you, my dude. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you and everyone. Yes, indeed. And when I see everyone, it's just like yesterday, and I'm in touch. I get a chance to, speaking of that, I get a chance to see him online sometime because when he does the IG Live, I get a chance to tune in with him, and different other people from Detroit. So, and I hit up Amp at any time. I think about him sometime, and I'll dial his number, just call him on the phone. But I miss you guys, miss Mr. D. I hope to see you guys soon, and when this thing is over with, and as soon as travel is open, then you guys can come visit me in PR.
That sounds wonderful, my Dukes. You have a really, 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 just beautiful spirit, and you just have a really wonderful way of, just sharing the legacy with everyone. So just gratitude for that, and gratitude for sharing your story.
Thank you. I appreciate anyone even caring to know, but I especially appreciate the help. And like I said, giving honor to people that helped move this movement forward. This cult following started a small thing, Piper, and you are instrumental in that.
Wow. I'm honored.
Yes, well, Tony and I always talk about it. Every time we look at it, I say, yep, if it wasn't for Piper, your ears should ring a lot.
Oh, my Dukes, I really feel
we acknowledge that. And we made so many connections and new friends. And it even helped to make, like before the pandemic, I was booked for speaking engagements like the full year, almost through September.
Wow.
And and a couple of them were in Detroit. I had a couple keynote speaking engagements. And so I'm like, wow. And then pandemic hit and that nothing could happen, right? But it's just been an honor, because had it not been for the foundation and for those that worked with it and helping it move forward with the willingness to share and cooperate with one another, that's what makes it work. That's that teamwork. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what makes it happen.
Well, yes. Thank you, my Dukes. And, we want everyone to go on to J Dilla Foundation. Is it .com or .org?
.org. Yeah.
So jdillafoundation.org. And that's where you can connect with my Dukes and everyone that's working on all these wonderful projects, and just find out, what's going on and get involved and support pushing the legacy forward. And this has just been wonderful. It's, it's Dilla time, Dilla month. And, we celebrate the entire month, but definitely the 7th for his birthday, and just appreciate you and everyone. This has been, the Piper Carter podcast on Detroit is Different. And you can check us out on all social media platforms and all streaming platforms to listen to the podcast, and try to interact with us on our Facebook group, Piper Carter Podcast. We look forward to speaking with you. We're also on Instagram and on pc.podcast. So, like, share, subscribe. We just really appreciate you listening to the Piper Carter Podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Tune in weekly to the Piper Carter Podcast with Piper Carter for a conscious take on music, arts, politics, and fashion. The founder of We Found Hip Hop has a say on what you should know about culture with a balanced conscience. Subscribe, like, and share on Apple iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher to the Piper Carter Podcast to hear the stories and thoughts of Piper Carter. Follow Piper Carter on Instagram at Piper Carter.